Okay. Well, yeah, John, we don't see you on Facebook anymore. I guess they permanently wiped you out, huh?
Yeah, the account was disabled and I didn't do anything to get it back. I just let it fade away, so it's
Yeah.
gone.
Well, we're still getting stuff from Sandy Crowther,
Yes.
uh, you know, and somebody that I know, he posts something from Ramana Maharshi, and today there was a post from Ramana saying, "Stay with the I am."
Good, good.
It's a quote from you know, Ramana. So the message is getting through. No matter which mouth it's coming out of.
Indeed.
I received a YouTube post on Ramana called Yanni. Is that the same one, Kathleen, that you're referring to?
No, I don't know
Okay.
the post that I get on Facebook is a guy named La Charité. He's a French young man who fell in love with Ramana and went to India, and he says that's all he wants to talk about. So he posts all quotes mostly from Ramana. But yeah.
Yeah, this is a movie that a friend of mine sent to me. It's called Yanni. It's really well done. It's really the core of Maharshi's teachings. With it's a film actually. It's an hour-and-a-half film. So it's yeah, it's really nice actually. Tiruvannamalai and Arunachala, kinds of folk dialogue from different people who are very familiar with his teaching. And basically, you could say it's the same thing. The only thing you would substitute is the inquire with the mantra. That's basically the only difference that I really noticed.
Okay. It must be a new person on the scene, Yanni. I never heard of that. I know there's an entertainer called Yanni who's a Greek.
No, this is the name. This is the name of the film, actually. Yanni. The name of the film is Yanni.
Oh,
yeah.
Yanni.
It's Janni.
Oh, Janani, like in yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was getting it mixed up with something else.
We have to go to see Yanni on here. His discussions. That would be good.
There's Keith and Mary there. And so that's good. No questions, Vicki?
No.
Vicki's not really new. She's been around a long time. She just is new to this particular format.
Okay.
What was the name of that city or neighborhood where Ramakant will probably return to? Probably the same place, or in September he'll be coming back to that same place.
Maryland. Columbia, Maryland. Most likely he'll be there.
Columbia,
That's
Maryland.
where his son lives. Yeah.
And what was the name of that house, or do you remember?
That'll probably,
well, yeah, I guess it'll
be on this video.
Yeah.
It'll be sent out in the email when and if, I don't even know if anything's happening right now. So,
yeah.
But it'll be going out in the email. We're definitely not going to say that on the video though.
Yeah, you might get 100 people showing up. Yeah, it's not too far away actually to start to plan for these things, especially people coming from out of town.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been trying to do the mantra more as much as possible. And I was wondering, where, a lot of times I tend to forget to do it because I just get distracted. Is there like any particular thing you do to remind yourself? I guess I don't really have a picture of Ramakant up. That would help a little bit, but I'm not really around any particular spot. Well, I guess I'm by the computer fairly often. But
Yeah, I mean, when you notice that you're not, engaged in mantra and your mind is wandering to something else, then just bring it back.
and then I also noticed today that, well, it's always been a little bit of, sometimes I'll think it's a little bit of like a slight chore to do the mantra or something. There's something in my mind that there's a slight resistance there. But today I just thought, well, if I could love the mantra, and somehow that loving the mantra, it opens, kind of opened, at least for now, it's opened up more willingness just to love the mantra.
I mean, just don't make it too big of a deliberate thing or a lot of thinking going on in it or a lot of, oh, I'm doing this mantra. I wouldn't do that.
Mm.
One of the things I'm kind of dealing with is that my wife tells me that I'm sort of living in my own world because I do so much focusing on, like meditating and, just this whole kind of, basically following what I really would like to follow. I maybe, like it's just basically that kind of, something that needs to be worked through. For instance, maybe because there's still kind of, I guess, like awakening taking place or whatever you want to call it. The clouds are, I mean, the process is still going on, in other words. And, excuse me. The process is still going on. And so basically it's just kind of like dealing with that kind of a thing. I don't feel the need to communicate much. I don't feel the need to participate much. So, like that sort of, for someone who's not involved in the same thing as I'm involved in, it's kind of like creates maybe a difficulty. Have you any comments on that or?
I mean, everyone's
mean,
their own self, so you're
Yeah,
and experiencing your projections. I
yeah,
wouldn't think that the mind would need to get involved in thinking, oh, maybe they don't think I'm talking or participating enough or anything like that. That's just kind of a mental thing that isn't needed. So you're just literally remaining with yourself as self. All the attention is inward while you're viewing the world outwardly, and you can still participate, but you're not so into it. You're not so involved in it. You're not taking the touch of it. And I wouldn't worry too much about what other people are perceiving, because there are no others other than your own selfless self. And it's all the projection that you're interacting with yourself.
right, yeah,
Worry about someone other people are feeling because you are yourself. You know, someone.
Yeah, that's one of the big main fears, is that there are others. And how is this,
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff? But that's not the reality. And once you see the reality, then you can interact very nicely with yourself in other, just in a projected kind of state. Just like, again, in the dream state, if you were walking around interacting with people or not interacting with people, and deeply knowing that it's all coming from the one source, your selfless self, the entire world is projected on your spontaneous presence. So there are no others. That's just a fear that your mind is kind of keeping and holding on to, that, oh, what will people think, or what is, but there are no people, it's just you.
hmm
And once you have the courage to step forward and you see this, then there will be no doubt. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's just you.
Situations of abuse. I mean, what if, there's all kinds of stuff in the news and things like that about people being abused in various ways. So
Well, again, there's no people. This question was asked to Maharaj of one circle. How can one Brahma harm another Brahma? But that's only from the body identity, when you're trying to split yourself off into something that you are not. In truth, it's just not that way. There is no one being harmed. There's nothing happening. Inside the appearance, which is just here for you to know yourself in a real sense, you're hearing and seeing and going to see these various different scenes. But you're not involved at all, because in the deepest sense, just as if you were in a dream and you saw kids being beaten in the playground or whatever, it would be disturbing, but truly it's just a dream.
yeah, that's sort of hard, because it seems like you have to deal with it on the relative level as well as the absolute. On the absolute level, yes, but what about, there's still the relative level.
You probably won't run across these kind of things. That's all. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you will. For my own self, having no sense of myself, there's no sense of a world and all these kind of things. Number one, I'm not interested in television at all, and news and all that kind of stuff, because why? So it's just whatever's right in front, and you're there. And if you hear about different things, I don't know. You just know. I mean, when you know yourself in a real sense, if something like that were to disturb you, you could be watching something very disturbing on TV. Just go inward. Remain with yourself as self. That sense of bliss, that sense of presence that you're feeling, then you'll know. You'll just know, okay, this appears to be something very disturbing, just as if you saw it on a movie screen, but it's not reality. Otherwise, you can certainly take the pill of going down the rabbit hole of concepts. But in order for you to have all of these concepts, you have to have an I am somebody else that is experiencing it's me and the world. It's just not true. And every question that's raised in that area is only showing where body knowledge and body concepts are involved. And you just have to discard this through a mantra. You still believe that you're somebody and that things are happening in this so-called world. Yes, you're talking relative and absolute level. But when you know yourself in a real sense, then the relative and the absolute are one and the same. And there is no, it's just not like that.
There's actually no separation between the relative.
I mean, you know yourself in a real sense, a formless sense of presence that you are the knower of. Dive into that. Even if it's just the size of a dime, just Dive in, dive in, dive in. You're in the knower of the sense of presence, paying attention to the presence. Who cares about the manifestation that's coming and going? You're not that. It's appearing on that spontaneous presence. Know yourself in a real sense. These questions, these disturbances just won't be. There's not even the ideal of forgiveness and all of that kind of stuff, because there's no one to forgive, and there's nothing going on like that. You remain with your selfless self, and the scenes come and go, but there's not an I am somebody else that's commenting on this thing being a good thing or a bad thing, because there isn't an I am somebody else created that's taking any sort of position. It's the positionless position. Or the floating thing on the map. There's no point. There's no pinpoint where you say, this is where I am and this is how I stand and all that. And if you do, then you just need a little bit more mantra and keeping with your selfless self, because there's still some concepts of body knowledge that have to be dissolved. That's why, like Maharaj says, unless you know yourself in a real sense and this body knowledge is dissolved, you're not going to know yourself in a real sense as long as there's body knowledge. Body knowledge is, I'm somebody, I've experienced these things, I see these other things, oh, this is terrible, oh, this is good. It's just not true. And as long as you believe that, you will not be able to know yourself in a real sense. You might touch that sense of presence every so often, but you will not be with yourself. You'll always be believing that, okay, it sounds good that I'm not a body, but yet I still believe I'm a body because I believe that there are other bodies, and I believe that this body can do something against that body because I'm believing in the idea of individuality where there is none.
Yeah, there could be an experience of whatever it is, sorrow or hurt.
In the moment.
Yeah, in the moment.
But it's, it's a feeling that just passes through.
Yeah.
I guess one of the questions, like, how long does that moment last? It could last for an hour or 2 hours, for days maybe, and depending on what person is in their development. Their growth.
Yeah, I mean, it'll get shorter and shorter. Like Maharaj has said, your response time will get shorter and shorter and shorter. You may be angry all of a sudden, for whatever reason, and then it passes. It passes very, very quickly. And it will eventually just come and go as it does, as it always has been. It's only your belief in an I am somebody else that's identifying with thoughts and feelings and calling them my thoughts and my feelings. And then you want to defend those thoughts and feelings, even if you're suffering from them, because they're yours.
Taking ownership.
Yeah, which is, there's no need for this. A feeling is passing. Good feeling, bad feeling, whatever, it's passing. It's coming and going. It doesn't affect you. You remain with your formless nature, and you just know, okay, I'm remaining with my selfless self. This thing is passing through. Okay, it's passing through. It has nothing really to do with me at all, unless I make it about me, in which case I have to have an I am somebody else, which means the attention is off myself and it's now on the fictitious character. And this fictitious character has all these concerns and all these problems. Like Maharaj says, if you take yourself to be a body, you're going to experience all these bodily things. But you're not.
But even when you don't take yourself to be a body, there's still experiencing of these things. I mean, like, whatever.
There's no footprint. It's not a footprint where you can like say, oh yeah, this happened in the morning and it ruined my whole day. It's not like that. There's no footprint in memory. And in order to have some experience and to have an experience, there's a memory, first off, an I am somebody else, and then a memory which compares this experience with past, and we'll try to say that's the fear and desire principle, where it's like, ooh, I want to re-experience this, or I don't want to ever experience that again. And that I am somebody else then creates the concepts of, I don't want to feel this. And then it's my feeling and I'm lost. Then when this happens, I just have to go back and say, okay, it's time for more mantra. And again, like we said, listening to the mantra as it's running. Okay, listening to the mantra. Paying attention to the one that's listening to the mantra. Using this body as no more than an instrument. That's the reality. It's not about somebody saying, oh, well, that's a very cold way to look at things. It's the reality. Anything other than that is not the reality.
It seems like, like there are days when I feel like I'm really there, and then all of a sudden something happens and I get caught off guard. It's like, I guess it's a ingrained, or just a conditioning or whatever, but it's just kind of like, and it seems it just, for momentarily, it brings everything collapsing down, kind of.
And that's fine. Just when you notice that, go back to mantra, go back to yourself, because there you've turned up the heat and you don't want to ride along with the boil. You want to stay where you are. Okay, heat's being turned up. Now mantra. I recognize that my attention's starting to go out. Mantra. Because in the times that the attention wasn't out and you remained with your selfless self, you got glimpses of reality. Now those glimpses are the only thing that's causing you to only have glimpses, is because you're repositioning on the illusion.
But it kind of creeps in. You don't realize you're doing it.
And as soon as you do, just gently put yourself back and just say, oh, look at that. Okay. You can acknowledge it, whatever. And then mantra, mantra. Because all these situations you're creating in your own experience, because the ideas and beliefs you're holding about yourself in any given moment create the experience that you're perceiving. So when you stop doing that, when there stops being an I am somebody else creating these experiences, it's when you know yourself in a real sense, spontaneous conviction has taken hold of you. And you just know, oh yeah, this is all nothing.
But I can't get the spontaneous conviction to come just by doing the mantra.
Well, you're behaving in such a way that Master said you're Brahman, you live like Brahman. Some kind of problem comes up, you don't worry about solving the problem, you worry about remaining with your selfless self. That's where the challenge is. You put it into practice. Like Maharaj says, he takes one step, you take the other step. Because you have to know this. You have to behave in such a way that, oh yeah, that's right. I'm the formless presence. I'm Brahman, Atman, Paramatman, God and Master. I don't need to be worried about this situation. I need to be remaining with my selfless self. Just as when I was in India and the food poisoning happened, I didn't worry about the food poisoning or whether I was dying or whether I was really, really sick or what was happening. I remained with the selfless self mantra. And looking back then, I knew that was one of those times where ideas, beliefs, and concepts held about myself, which was mantra through this experience. Of course, I could have gone the other way of saying, oh my God, but you don't understand. Like, I have food poisoning. It's really important. But it's not, you see, because the entire experience was just there to remain with my selfless self. To remain with mantra. Master said, when problems come, remain with yourself. Don't get the mind involved in trying to solve illusory problems that are appearing to be real.
Yeah,
You just have to have courage.
if you get the mind involved, it just makes things worse. Because then,
Then it appears real.
yeah.
It only escalates the problem when the mind gets involved. I mean,
Of course. If somebody says to you tomorrow, I'm sorry, you have a terminal heart condition, you're going to be dead in 6 months. Okay, now it's time to do mantra. That's it. Mantra, go do my treatments. Mantra, go do this. Mantra, go do that. Or I can sit there and be, oh, this is terrible, I'm dying, oh, it's so terrible. You know what I'm saying? It's up to you. And it's not true. That's the crazy part. You're going to convince yourself that you're dying and all this terrible stuff is happening, but it's just not true. So it's up to you. There are no problems. There are just instances where you are to remain with yourself, the self. I mean, my God, Master has told you, you're Brahman, Atman, Paramatman, God, and Master, and you're worried about traffic or some silly little nonsense thing, some petite little medical problem or old age or creaky bones or some silliness. You are, Master has said, Brahman, Atman, Paramatman, God. Behave like that. Stop worrying about these illusory problems that mean nothing and that are just stirring your mind for no reason at all other than to take you further away from yourself. Have courage. Stand your ground. Stop being so, oh. You're pretending that you're this little limited thing and then crying about being limited. You're crying about the problems that the limited something is going through when you are unlimited. And all you have to do is know your unlimited nature, and instantaneously these problems of the limited person are gone. Just like we talked about before, the mouse. You're not a mouse, and you're sitting there saying how horrible the mouse life is and how the cat chases you and how there's so many traps around and oh my God, what a hard mouse life you're living, but you're not a mouse. You are, through illusion, trying just only to know yourself in a real sense. So when illusion is no more, you know you are, even though there's no instrument to know yourself. So know yourself now and stop behaving like a little limited something. You are not born, you will never die. There's no coming and going. You're in all things, all the time, everywhere. This limited something that you're attached to is absolutely nothing. It's an appearance in the nothingness, in the allness that you are. And by believing yourself to be this limited something and going around in this limited something with this world worrying about limited problems, you are God, Brahman, Atman, Paramatman, and Master. What problems more do you have? Is God worried about traffic? Or whether the credit card bill is too high this month, or how we're going to move this around or that around, or, you know, just silliness. God, Brahman, Atman, Paramatman, Master, the formless sense of presence that you are the knower of, doesn't have these concerns. So why should you? See all these little limited things as what they are, opportunities for you to know yourself in a real sense. And after you know yourself in a real sense, you'll begin to cease creating opportunities because you'll have the courage. You'll be the lion, like Maharaj says. You know, you're no longer the little sheep that's, oh, please, no, no dogs, no wolves, I'm so scared. And the lion comes and says, look at your reflection. You see your shoulders? You see your paws? You see the claws at the end of your paws? You see your teeth? You're like me. You're a lion. You're not a goat or sheep.
I think it was donkeys originally. Dobies, you know, the donkeys that carry laundry.
There you go.
A baby lion that was born with them.
But yeah, you're not a goat, a sheep, a donkey. You're the lion. Behave like a lion. And it's embarrassing to see a lion that would eke around and be like, oh my gosh, there might be some dogs or wolves, I have to be very careful. But that's how the lion is believing itself to be. And then Master sits there and says, no, 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 please stop, you know, being so scared of lions or of wolves and dogs. You're a lion. When challenges come up, you see those as an opportunity to flex your spiritual muscles, basically. You have courage. Everything is an opportunity for you to know yourself in a real sense, so that when the time to go leave the body comes, it'll be a very happy moment. Okay. Now I can no longer believe myself to be limited. I'm leaving this limited form. Then it's not a part-time thing. You know, when you say, well, sometimes I like to do mantra, sometimes not. Okay, that's fine. And hopefully, when your time is coming to leave the body, you know yourself in a real sense, and you're okay because you met a master. So if you met a master and the master gave you mantra so that you could escape from this illusion and know yourself in a real sense, and you don't take that opportunity, I mean, come on now. That's like Siddharmeshwar Maharaj says, the birth into 11 million different species. It may be the day of 1,000 deaths where you're a cockroach that gets smashed, and then an ant that gets smashed, and then a bird that gets eaten, or, I mean, who knows? And that's all, of course, in the illusion, but you get the point. You have the master key. Use it. Otherwise, what was your life worth? What was this human form even for? If you're not using it to know yourself in a real sense, that's the single most important thing. Even if you become a multi-billionaire in the illusion, who cares? Knowing yourself in a real sense is the only thing that you should be concentrated on at any given moment, at any given time.
Yeah, after the body goes, then if you haven't, discovered that, then
your time of leaving the body is probably going to be pretty terrifying because you're going to believe that you're dying because you haven't touched yourself. You haven't known yourself in a real sense. Once you know yourself in a real sense, whether this body is here or not makes no difference whatsoever. You know this. Even though you won't have an instrument to measure yourself as the body form, you're measuring your sense of presence. And if you don't know this, then your time of leaving the body, you're going to be terrified. It's going to be like, oh my God, I'm dying. I'm really dying. Is there an afterlife? And you're going to be searching through books and all kinds of stuff to try and get something that has some semblance and say, okay, well, if I didn't know this, then, Christianity says there's heaven and Buddha says there's this, maybe I'll go there. No, that's confusion at the time of leaving the body, which is pain and suffering. Rather than just knowing yourself in a real sense, breathing in, breathing out, and you're finished.
So the whole purpose of the body is to know yourself in a real sense.
That's it. That's absolutely it. If you did nothing else, that's all. That's it. That's it. Because you're everything else. All your needs, everything is provided for you. Your only thing is to know yourself in a real sense. That's it. Number one priority. The funny thing is, if you think, oh, I'm going to leave a good legacy and all this kind of stuff, the world's illusion. So leave your good legacy in a dream world that when you wake up, the dream world's gone. Nobody remembers and nothing's there. So who cares about that? Know yourself in a real sense. The masters said exactly how to do that. Meditation, concentration, concentrating on the concentrator, listening to the listener that's listening to the mantra as it's being used in this instrument. When that sense of presence is even just a tiny dime, you dive into it. And it grows because you stop paying attention to other things and start paying more attention to your own selfless self. As Nisargadatta Maharaj says, you remain in the I Am, and the I Am continues to reveal all the secrets, to bring you deeper and deeper and deeper inside. Because you stop paying attention to the illusion, you start paying attention to yourself, and that's it. Then you're happy beyond happiness. The bliss is unbelievable. Because there's nothing to disturb it. there's no I am somebody else that needs to go do something, or And yet you still, you know, I go to work every day. I do my job every day, do the job, do the duties, but I'm not taking any touch of it. It's just happening. That's it. And that, know yourself in a real sense, and all this illusory world can then be used. You can enjoy the duality rather than fearing it.
Doesn't have any power over you then.
Of course not, because you're the whole world is projected from your spontaneous presence. You know this. And everything is seen as a challenge and a test of your spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge meaning, I remain with my selfless self. Oh yeah, look at that. It looked like I had to solve that problem, but I remained with my selfless self and the problem got solved and I didn't go out to it. There was no I am somebody else created, and everything seemingly happened quite nicely. That's it.
No doer.
There can't be.
Yeah.
There's only a somebody claiming authorship of a deed that's been done after the fact, and the true doer is not, there's nothing. You understand, your sense, you're the knower of the sense of presence, formless. How can a formless something do anything in the manifestation except through the appearance, which is appearing in the illusory world that you're projecting, so that, again, you can know yourself in a real sense?
But I still get fooled that the illusion has a real, some kind of real sense too. Just
Well, the illusion provides you with the illusory body that you can use as an instrument to measure yourself in a real sense, to know that sense of presence and know that you're the knower of that sense of presence. Otherwise, without illusion, you're all of everything all the time. There's nothing separating even an illusion to measure. You know, there's no cup that you can put into the nothingness to know the nothingness. That's why the illusion is there. So you can use this body as the cup to dip it in and say, oh, okay, so that I. So when this instrument is gone, you know, oh, so that I always am. No birth, no death.
I just wonder what more I can actually do, because, you know, like most of the mornings I spend like maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours meditating, doing a mantra. Then I try to continue it throughout the day, to do the bhajans. Then I integrate, you know, I'm doing the work too, like usually I'm working on the computer, or, you know, working with weddings and so forth. And yet I still get caught off guard, you know, like, as I said, you know, like there's probably just deeply ingrained habits or conditioning there that's just got to be come to the surface and faced and outgrown and dropped, basically. Yeah, I just don't know what else to do, basically. You know, like I try to follow what the instructions are, and I do, you know, like I read some of Roma Conference, just like sometimes I read maybe just a paragraph or a few sentences, and that's more than enough usually. But this, you know, and then there are times when I'm really in that kind of like space, you know, where it's really kind of like, there's just kind of like an opening there. but again, you know, like there are those, excuse me, every time I talk, there are those moments when I can, it just gets caught off guard. And, you know, it's probably each of the individual things that I need to deal with. Like one of the most recent one was with myself. It wasn't with anyone else. It was frustration with myself. And again, that's taking myself as an individual body. You know, so I guess it's just going down the line and checking these things off. You know, like.
Yeah, whenever you see the attention
Yeah.
from yourself, like you said, you have these times where you just know yourself. There you are, and then the attention goes to something else, so just bring it back. Don't beat yourself up about it. Don't say, "Oh my God," you know, or anything. Just bring your attention back and continue to mantra. And when you said like kind of chastising your own self or having some kind of issue with yourself, that's definitely time for mantra rather than allowing that mental commentary to come in. Because even if you're feeling bad or whatever, remember the feeling is just that. It's a feeling. And it's just passing through. It needs no commentary. It needs no story behind it. Nor does it need an I am somebody else. So you just bring your attention back and just continue with mantra. The only thing is when you believe that you need to think through something, rather than using mantra, remaining with yourself as self. If thinking is needed, thinking will occur, but it won't be a personal, individualized sense of I am somebody else creating a thinker. Thinking will just be happening.
The issue with me, and you know, like, and you mentioned it when, you know, earlier when we were speaking. Basically, it's me, but in many ways, it's how it affects other people, you know, that I'm working with or whatever. That, and as you said, you know, there's no others, for instance, because there's no me. That, you know, like, that maybe there's just got to be the realization of that, you know.
And just don't be so conscious. Don't be so conscious of all these things. Just move about. You know, just like a fish swimming through water doesn't sit and think of every stroke and each way that it's going to move. And unless somebody sits there and says, hello, are you smoking weed or what? I've been talking to you and you seem like you're staring off into space. Then I wouldn't worry. It's all in the mind that you're sitting there thinking, oh, I'm not responding appropriately or something like this. It's all you, and you're projecting all of this experience just to remain with yourself as self, to have courage to step forward.
I can see that too, in a sense that there are conditioned responses where I wish it's like a self-rejection in a way. It's like I wish I wouldn't do that, or you know, patterns that come up and you're like, oh no, I did that again, and then you kind of get disgusted with yourself. You know, it's a mental pattern of like, I wish that I didn't have that pattern. So
and again, slowly, silently, permanently, mantra is erasing all these illusory concepts. Like Maharaj says, the antivirus software, the broom. You know, we had talked a long while ago, I think, about leaves. They come in and you just keep sweeping. The door opens and leaves are coming in and you just keep sweeping. You just keep sweeping and keeping it clear. Or the mirror that we talked about the other, you know, you see dust particles on it. You don't sit there and kill yourself about the dust particles. You just clean that mirror. Use the mantra. Remain with yourself with self. Don't sit there and say, oh my God, I'm not doing a good job of cleaning this mirror. Look at all these specks. Because that I am somebody else, looking at all these specks, looking at all this, and the attention, whatever you put your attention on is going to grow. So it's not good. Don't beat yourself up. You truly, you, the you that you are absolutely perfect, because there's no even imperfection or perfection. There's no attributes whatsoever. In your original state, there's no attributes, nothing. You are all of everything, completely attributeless. Only in the illusion, I am somebody else, do you start to experience attributes, and then you assign attributes to every little thing that you see, and you know how this thing is relating to a me.
And other me's.
And other me's, which there are no other me's.
Yeah.
It's just you. And you have to behave that way. You have to absolutely know that the cashier who is sitting there and you're buying something and she's smiling and all this kind of stuff is just your own selfless self. And we spoke about before, for my own self, as it progressed in this way, there was a recognition in the projection, just as there was with the masters at the ashram. You know, I'd be talking to the lady at McDonald's, and there's just a recognition in the projection. Yeah, that's my own self. There's a feeling, there's a pull.
Yeah.
That's a progressive step not to get hung up on, but that's something that will happen. The more you remain with the mantra, the more you communicate with others, you'll kind of give this hint to yourself that, wow, my presence is in every being.
Yeah.
And you'll know, you'll feel it, that recognition in the projection. There'll be a very strong pull of presence to presence that's felt strongly. And it's in everybody. Because everybody is your own self. It's just that one selfless self. Just like, again, the one dreamer dreaming an entire city of people. And inside the dream, the character that you're using in the dream is recognizing that this person here, there's something about them that is myself. And that form that you're using in the dream, the dreamer sees through that and recognizes, oh my gosh, all of this is myself. Then your progressive steps will be, yeah, the quote, so-called good people, so-called bad people, so-called bad things that are happening, and all this. All of it is happening on your spontaneous presence. You are a projector of the entire world. And then there is no so-called good or so-called bad unless it's from the point of an individual. From the point of a dreamer can be having a dream where one city is burning itself to the ground with rioting, and the other city is over there having picnic lunch and giving free food to the homeless. It's all the one dreamer dreaming, and nothing's actually happening.
I mean, this awakening has to be, from what I, like, it's just got to be so complete that there's really, as you keep saying, there's no somebody there, because like you're working and you're getting you're totally exhausted. You can get, if you're not completely gone, in other words, as an individual, if there's absolutely nothing there, then when you're working and so forth, and you're getting exhausted and so forth, and someone rubs you the wrong way, there's a reaction that happens or something like that, or you make mistakes. You're making mistakes that, you got other people that you're working with, or you're trying to do something for. There's no residue of that.
Well, again, once you know yourself in a real sense, you're inviting the attention of the invisible listener that all of this is illusion. There's nothing for you to do. I don't want you're sitting there saying, oh, if I don't remain with nothing, then something will bother me or whatever. It's nothing that you're doing. You remain with your selfless self, and you, the invisible listener that you are, slowly, silently, permanently erases the illusion. You're no longer seeing through the veil of concepts. You're seeing cleanly and clearly. There's nothing like that. And the spontaneous conviction is merely, I know myself in a real sense. That sense of presence, feel that sense of presence, remain with that sense of presence that you're the knower of. And all of this world is appearing on that spontaneous presence. Then there's no like, oh, I have to get rid of me or anything like that. I just keep remaining, because the sense of presence is investigating all the illusion that's on top of it. And that you are.
Yeah, it's a matter of trusting it to do its work. Because I'm not the
Not even trusting, knowing that it is. That's it. That's the reality.
Yeah.
And the one that's trusting is in the illusion, holding on to the illusion and trying to get to the reality. But the reality will erase the illusion quite easily. Just remain with your selfless self. Remain with your selfless self. Mantra, meditation, concentration, that sense of presence. You are the knower of that sense of presence. That sense of presence grows. Why does it grow? Because the illusion shrinks. Just like we talked about before, I experienced in the ashram that suddenly there was this huge expansion, but it wasn't an expansion. It's from the position of a person or an individual that feels an expansion, but the reality is that the illusion is being blown away of being in an individual form of some sort and knowing yourself in a real sense as this formlessness, this that you are.
Yeah, I think that, as you said, everything is happening in your mind. And even the selfless self, I would think. It's all happening in your mind. So actually, outside of that, nothing is happening.
The appearance is the only place that anything can be happening, and that's only for a split moment. Like if you were going to sleep at night, dreaming, and then waking up, that's life. You know, a lifetime. You have the nothing, then there's this appearance of something. We call it a lifespan, and then back to the nothing. The appearance for a time is the only thing that is you're perceiving because it's something that's a stirring in the attributeless that you are. And you don't know that. The only thing is that inside the illusion, you know yourself in a real sense. So having known yourself as this formlessness, then whether the form is there or not, you know you are. You've been with yourself, you've remained with yourself. Now you can enjoy the duality as your own self and know that when this body falls, you still are, because you were there prior to beingness, you'll be there after leaving the body. You're using the body instrument inside the appearance, inside the illusion, to know the reality, your own selfless self. And like Maharaj says, prior to beingness, you're formless. After leaving the body, you're formless. All of this form thing is just, again, so that there's an appearance and you can know yourself using the body instrument. You know yourself. You know that you're the knower of the sense of presence, and the sense of presence is just announcing your existence. Yes, you know what? You exist. So that whether the body's there or not, you know your existence. So when you're leaving the body, even though you'll have no instrument to know yourself, you knew when you were using the body instrument, you know your existence. The sense of presence is the announcements that you exist. I am, whatever you want to call it. And when you're leaving the body, you know, oh yeah, I exist. Even though I have nothing now to measure that sense of existence, I always am. And can never not be. Can't be cut, can't be burned, can't be divided. Knowing yourself in a real sense, death just won't even make sense. There's like, how can that die? How can you, it doesn't make sense.
There's no heaven and no hell.
It can't be. For who?
Yeah.
The heaven and the hell, if you want to call it anything at all, is you leaving the body with the belief that you're leaving the body, with the belief that you are dying, and then sitting there and wondering, is it going to be heaven? Is it going to be hell? Was I good? You know, I'm not sure if I got the Maharaj thing, so maybe I should go back and start praying to Jesus or something like that, because I'm dying. And that's where the issue of heaven and hell would come in the illusion, because that's the only place anything can happen, is in the illusion. Other than that, there can't be anything happening, because there's just you. There's nothing that can happen with just you. That's why Nisargadatta Maharaj and Ramakant Maharaj say, if at all you want to compare, Compare yourself to sky or space, the formless sense of presence that you are the knower of. The announcement that you exist, which you get to sense through the body form, so that when the body form is not there, you know that you still are. And that's the basics of spirituality, like Maharaj says, accept your selfless self. There's no God, there's no Brahman, there's no Atman, there's no Paramatman, there's no master. Nothing is there. This entire appearance appeared upon your spontaneous presence. And the consciousness and all that they talk about will all disappear when you no longer have the body instrument to measure yourself in a real sense. That's why measure yourself in a real sense. Know yourself now, right now.
What prevents that though?
Prevents what?
Well,
What prevents what? Prevents you knowing yourself in a real sense? Your attention on all other things that are not yourself.
oh, okay.
You're fascinated by the fanciful passing things that are nothing, and you're paying attention to those and then trying to go out and grasp these illusory clouds instead of paying attention to your own selfless self.
Yeah. Yeah.
But all that's done now. You've met yourself in the form of Sri Ramakant Maharaj, who said, all that, throw it away. Throw away all these books, Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta Maharaj and all these guys, just toss all the books in the trash because you're here now. You've got your golden ticket, so to speak. You have appeared to yourself in the form of Sri Ramakant Maharaj, given the mantra, and said, illusion's finished for you. Just remain with yourself the self. Know yourself in a real sense, and all will be well for you. And yet, do your job, do your duties, do what is right in front of you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say you can also try too hard because it's like trying to manhandle the clouds, you know, trying to actually move them out. And maybe
Yeah, there shouldn't be anything other than you just remaining with yourself the self. You know, through mantra and remaining with yourself the self. That's all you have to do. That invisible listener, when you invite the attention of the invisible listener using mantra, using bhajan, using these different various instruments inside the illusion to invite that attention, that sense of presence will grow because the sense of illusion will be slowly, silently, and permanently erased. There's nothing for you to do.
Now, as the selfless self, as that state of nothingness, does happiness, is it happiness itself? As I do believe that happiness is within me. In fact, happiness.
Again, happiness and all these sort of things, you have to have a body instrument to measure that. Mind, ego, intellect. That's why Maharaj says, you know, where no happiness is required, that your own selfless self, there's no happiness required. There's no disturbance of any kind. Therefore, you're just in a, you know, the Satchidananda, I guess you would call it, or samadhi, or whatever you want to call it, where you're not focusing on anything. There's no body sensation. There's no body knowledge. There's no body consciousness. You just are.
Yeah,
but
but
again, go ahead.
Yeah, but I meant,
again, even that, you're using a body instrument.
no, but so you say happiness is a body instrument?
Is measured through the body form. Yeah, you have to have a body to have happiness, yes.
Couldn't happiness just happen?
Well, again, in your own attributeless nature, Brahman, whatever you want to call it, you, with only you, with nothing other than you and no way of knowing that you exist, how is happiness going to be? How? The only way you'd have happiness, unhappiness, is when there's that appearance which has attributes that can be attributed to this sense of presence, which is then labeled as I am somebody.
Well, I don't necessarily feel that way. I feel that in a state of being, in that state in which nothing really happens. That is also a kind of euphoric state. And
which will end as soon as the body is left. I mean,
yeah,
you can even think about that in the casual way. If you were to drop dead in the state of absolute bliss, you know, leave the body, that state of bliss goes with the body. There's nothing.
yeah, but I don't intend to drop that body yet. So in the meantime, I just feel that in that state, you can call it selfless self. That state of absolutely nothing, nothing to identify with, nothing to be, nothing, just like being, like you said, the air. But that itself, because you are outside of any body requirement and any body manipulation or anything, is a state that is, there's happiness in that state without seeing that as something of the body, because it's not, there's no expectation that something else are going to come in and then make you happy. It's a causeless state of being.
Yes, and what you're describing is the Satchidananda or the Samadhi. But again, still, there's an experiencer of that Samadhi, and you will not experience that when you've left the body. Of course, while you have the body instrument and you have the illusion, you can certainly experience yourself without yourself. That's your sense of presence, that Samadhi, that Satchidananda, whatever you want to call that, remaining with yourself in the self. That's what we're speaking about. But that too is just an attribute in the attributeless that you are. While you have the appearance, while you have the illusion, of course, you'll feel these things. That's why Maharaj says at the ultimate stage, there's no experience, no experiencer, no witness, no witnesser, because all of this is taking place inside the illusion.
Sometimes that feels kind of flat to me. Sorry. I just see it as, it certainly, I mean, it can be described in many ways. It is an attitude, or it is a state of being in which one is nothing in particular. One just is. It's a state of being. And that state of being, I don't feel has to necessarily be in attachment to the body in any way. It's just a state of in a sense, air, you can say. But happiness is also involved in that state, without thinking that this is something that's going to come and go with the body. You know, you're happy, you're unhappy. It's not, it's, in other words, it's not a dualistic state.
There's subtle ego there in order to be able to experience something. Yes. I mean, it could be this, you know, when they talk about the subtle bodies, okay, you're not in the gross physical body, you're in the subtle body. You're, you know, in the ether, so to speak, or whatever you want to call it, where you're, and again, that's the Satchidananda. And that's when you remain with yourself, the self, that would be what you described, where it's just absolute bliss. There's nothing because there's no disturbance of anything. But you know also that that is not the ultimate truth. The ultimate truth is that that is appearing on your spontaneous presence, this feeling of bodilessness, this bliss, this happiness. All of these things are appearing on your spontaneous presence. They're just veils. And once you leave the body, none of those veils will be there, because the original veil of I am somebody, or I am, that sense of existence, will not be there.
That's the first attribute.
Exactly. And then happiness is appearing on this sense of existence, this I am. And all these things are appearing on that I am. But that I am is the first attribute, the stirring and the attributeless that you are, in the nothing. That's the appearance, the beginning of the appearance, the dream that instantaneously you're projecting when you're laying down and sleeping. Boom, it just, a whole dream world appears. Same with the I am and all the attributes that go along with that one attribute. And there's no way to get rid of that, because that until you leave the body, there's going to be a sense of existence. Knowing yourself in a real sense or not, that sense of existence, you'll know. So all of these are added onto your spontaneous presence, happiness, unhappiness. After leaving the body, do you know anything about happiness or unhappiness? And prior to beingness, did you know anything about happiness, unhappiness? No, those are things that came along with the body. And yes, it's okay, in the dual world, in the appearance, enjoy the Satchidananda state, just knowing that that is not the ultimate truth. The ultimate truth is no experience, no experiencer, no witness, no witnesser. How you will be after leaving the body and how you were prior to beingness, that's the reality. Inside the appearance, you can get this Satchidananda, you can feel this bliss, you can all of these sort of things. You can remain with your selfless self and be absolutely experiencing your formlessness formlessly, but knowing that that is again an attribute that appeared on the attribute list, that you are. Nothing wrong. I mean, the state you're describing, so many spiritual teachers would be just so happy jumping, doing cartwheels to have people in the state of, oh yeah, you know, you're in Satchidananda like all the time. You're just in samadhi, like constantly. Nirvana or Nirvakta samadhi or whatever it's called, where you just have no sense of bodiness and it's just all bliss. And that's wonderful, but it's just not the ultimate truth.
Yeah, but you see, I'm not really talking about bliss. I'm not talking about an experience.
Okay.
Call it an appearance, but I'm talking about something that's inside you that just can that just bubbles up inside you without a cause, without a reason for this or a reason for that, without mind. And so I'm
As
not
you get,
samadhi experience, but I'm talking about rather a quiet type of, I use the word happiness because, but it's, you know, to me, it's, it goes along with such things as peace, perhaps beauty, calm. You can say that as being a state, and I understand that you say that, and that is not the highest self, but it is also something that occurs inside you. It's not the mind thinking of or expecting to, and if I am a true selfless self, or if I go samadhi, if I do this, all of this bliss, I'm not talking about bliss. I'm talking
no, you're
about
speaking about the sense of existence with only the sense of existence, with nothing else added on to it. That's what you're, I mean, from what you're describing, you're talking about, you go deep and deep and deep to your selfless self, and you get that, oh, so that I, and you have the sense of existence without adding anything onto it. And yeah, this is good. This is, you know, it's not the reality. It's not the ultimate reality, but yes, it's a progressive step, a stage where you can just have the sense of existence without anything being added onto it, just the sense of existence. Like Maharaj says, just I, just I, just I. And that itself is, again, happiness, because there's no disturbance. There's no, you know, you're just remaining with the sense of existence without adding anything onto that sense of existence, or without any identification of even the sense of existence.
when you say just die, you mean to die to all emotions?
No, just I. The feeling just I without anything. The sense of existence, remaining just with the sense of existence without adding anything onto it. That sense of presence, the sense of existence without identification. That's why Maharaj says, just I without anything. Just I, just that. And Nisargadatta Maharaj talks about, that's the sensation when you arise first thing in the morning, before the whole mechanism comes in to view the world, just I, the sense of existence without adding anything onto it.
I just think that this sense I immediately leaves you in well-being and in happiness. I think that it is that a natural state of this I, of just being this I.
Yeah, and again, just like Sri Ramakat Maharaj says, Nisargadatta Maharaj says, first thing in the morning, you wake up, and it's just I. It's just the sense of existence. Before the mind says, I am somebody else in a world and I need to do all these things, it's just the sense of existence. But there cannot be anyone trying to maintain that sense of existence because it is just the sense of existence. And if there's a feeling of happiness or sadness or anything like that, of course, it's the natural joy. It's unspeakable joy as you get closer and closer to your selfless self. And you experience I without anything. You're in that just existence without anything. Samadhi is what it's called, basically. I mean, that's how they talk about. The samadhi state is the existence without anything, without the feeling of body, without the knowledge of the body, without a body consciousness being involved. Just the sense of existence, cleanly.
Yeah, but we know that samadhi comes and goes.
Well, again, no. I mean, I think there's called the nirvikalpi samadhi or something. There's some kind of samadhi that is your natural state, where it's there. You just are, because that's as close as you can get to your natural state while you're still using a body form. The sense of existence without anything added on to it.
I think that's the state of a jnani, that someone basically is, all individuality is just totally gone for good.
Yeah, it's just a sense of existence.
Yeah.
Just a sense of existence operating in a body, but with no body consciousness whatsoever, with no seeing of a world whatsoever, because there's no I am somebody else in it. I think it is called, I have to look it up on Google. I don't know all the special Sanskrit words and all that, but I believe it's called Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which is...
yeah, it's Nirvikalpa. Nirvikalpali. Nirvikalpa.
And that's the natural state of samadhi, right? Where there's no, that's just you. You're no longer a holder of this samadhi. It's just this natural occurrence.
Yeah.
That becomes your natural experience, basically, is just your formlessness, the sense of existence without any kind of add-ons to it. From what I understand, I don't know all the wording and all that, but I know there's some kind of something where it's called the natural samadhi, where you are just with your sense of existence, with your sense of presence, with remaining with your selfless self. And perhaps maybe it's just the wording, what you're describing. If that's your natural state, then you're remaining with your selfless self. And then the world has no touch for you. Everything's coming and going. You're just totally involved with yourself. And with what you're describing, if that's your natural state, then that's self-realization. You know yourself in a real sense. And you're not allowing any of these touch of anything. You're just remaining with a sense of existence without anything there and without anyone trying to remain there. So you're basically just enjoying the duality until the time comes to leave the body.
You said enjoying the duality?
The duality, yeah, the duality, all the different world and the appearance until it comes time to leave the body. You're just enjoying your selfless self. And that's the idea. And so it sounds very good.
I guess I just don't see that as a dual state. Because I'm not comparing happiness to unhappiness.
No, when I say the duality, in other words, you're seeing, you're moving about in the world. Even if it's just your sense of existence, you're moving about. It's not a world that's being created through a story, but you're still in a body form, moving about and doing various different things, taking the dog for a walk or petting the cat or something like that. So you're enjoying your selfless self through the appearance, through the duality. But you just remain with that sense of existence. And again, like Nisargadatta Maharaj says, first thing in the morning when you arise, that's the sense of existence. Just I, just the formlessness. And if you're saying that's your natural state, then that's it.
No, I wish I could say it wasn't a natural state for you, but it comes and goes.
But then see, then there's someone observing the coming and going, and that one you just have to remain. That's the reality. If you're touching the reality in that way, then you're inviting the attention of the invisible listener. Your reality is expanding and your illusion is shrinking. Pay attention to the reality. Pay attention to those times when you are having that happiness that just is the happiness of getting closer and closer to your selfless self. There is no happiness that can describe that. And when you've lost yourself and you're still interacting, but there's no story and every scene is fresh in the moment without a you carrying yourself into it or without you having to behave any specific way, that's the bliss. I mean, you just remain with your selfless self. And getting closer and closer and closer to your selfless self. And yes, that state of whatever we just said, nirvakta samadhi or whatever, that is your reality. That is the sense of existence, just the sense of existence, the knower of the sense of presence, the formless knower of the sense of presence. And then you know yourself in a real sense. When this body instrument is no more, you know you still are, because this body has nothing to do with you and your existence.
Yeah, I think there are two kinds of terminologies. I think one is Sankalpa Samadhi, which is the samadhi that comes and goes. And Nirvikalpa Samadhi is the one that's permanent, that never, there's just never a change from that at all, period.
Because you're in your natural state and nothing's being added onto it. Just the sense of existence without I exist as something. And, adding all these concepts. You're just formlessly aware in the sense of existence without any conceptual, there's nothing there that concepts can stick to. Like Nisargadatta Maharaj says, space, if you compare yourself to space, there's no place to put concepts. There's no shelf. There's no landing point.
I just want to say that when I say comes and goes, it means that I have had what you can call glimpses. That is to say that I, as a body-mind, disappears. I disappear. I cannot connect with the body. I cannot connect with the mind. It disappears.
Good.
And in that moment, in these moments that happens, because sometimes it will last for a while, and then I don't know what happened while I'm pulled back into the body, but I am. But during those moments, I have to laugh. I mean, I laugh out loud. It feels all like a kind of a cosmic joke that I am now attached to this body. So it's a moment of just simple, because here words doesn't really explain.
Yeah.
Being in this state is just it's just an incredible happiness. But I'm not talking about fanfare and this bliss where you go nuts and so on. It's not like that. It's just a wonderful state of being, and I'm just laughing all the time. I can't explain why I'm laughing, but I'm laughing. So
The Buddha laugh.
Pardon?
The Buddha laugh. It's
Yeah. The Buddha laugh, right? But I can't say it is something, but I just know that I disappear.
Good. And then as soon as there's that's when there's no I am somebody else. It's literally like a skating rink in the mind. It's just totally, completely smooth and flat. And then there's an I am somebody else that starts to turn. And then you start to lose okay, now we're back to body, mind, and this and that. But before that, and during this time, that's when the I am somebody else starts to turn, that's when you can use mantra. That's when mantra can come in, and these times will be longer and longer and longer and longer, because you'll begin to pay more attention to yourself than to other things.
Yeah, but in this state, there is no mantra. I mean, there is no mantra, there's no selfless self, there's no trying
Right.
to.
Exactly.
It's stateless state.
Exactly. But then you say, then it goes, and it doesn't actually go. Your attention goes. So when that attention starts to go away from that, and you'll know, like you said, it's like, oh, I feel bodiless and everything's beautiful and this and that. And now something is happening and I'm starting to feel the touch of body again.
It's knocking
Hold
on
on
the
to
door.
that moment.
In fact, somebody's knocking on the door, and all of a sudden, this whole thing disappears. And you're right back in your body mind again. And it's actually, you get depressed because
Well, no, don't get depressed. As soon as you begin to sense the pressure of body knowledge, body mind, mantra, because that'll erase that slowly, silently, and permanently. Rather than even acknowledging that you're starting to feel the pressure of body or body knowledge, that's the time to mantra. Remain with your selfless self. And these will get longer and longer and longer. You're inviting the attention of the invisible listener. You are the reality. And the illusion, when you start to pay attention to the illusion, when that knock knock on the door comes and the pressure of body and body knowledge comes in, mantra. Don't get depressed. Don't get worried or say, oh man, that was really great and now it's gone, or let me get that back, or maybe if I sit and I meditate. No, just start to observe the mantra, listen to the mantra of running. As soon as there's a knock knock on the door.
I hear you.
Okay, I think it's time.
Okay.
We went a little over.
No, it's okay.
Push it too
Okay.
far. Is everybody okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very
All right.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.